What up, everybody? How you doing this morning? It's a Saturday, and I'm feeling pretty good because I am off for a week, so I'm going to take it in stride. But I wanted to make this little video to let you know that I know it's been a while since I've done something, but that's only because I've been busy at work. And even though that is the case, I realize I haven't had the time to really produce anything in terms of interesting content. But I have something on the way, which I'm going to do. And what it is going to be something discussing with, I think, a interesting topic for those who were not born during this time, who were probably not living in this time. I'm going to do a kind of, say, essay discussion, retrospective of the 80s in terms of how it was effective and how it might be one of the most, how can I say, very interesting decades ever, at least for those who have lived in it. I know for me, I was pretty much that, growing up from little boy to a grown, almost a man in sense. But the thing about the 80s, which is interesting from my perspective, is that if you look at the decade, it almost like was, it had two halves. In other words, one half of the decade was different than the other one. And that's what I'm going to kind of shed light on. And that's the thing about this decade. The 80s seemed like it had two halves and they were totally different from one another. If you lived through the decade, and if you pretty much maybe born into, maybe you would see it. But I mean, I think it's more effective with those who were living through it as teenagers and adults. But just to kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about, I'm going to actually do this in two halves, meaning that there's going to be a part one discussing the first half of the decade, and then a part two later on is going to do the other half and kind of differentiate from these two halves of the 80s and show that, wow, the 80s was very weird, very strange, very unique, but in a way, that's what made it so incredible from the 70s, the 90s, and even now. I mean, if you look at the 80s, it's such a amazing time, even though there were times when it was, you know, had its good points, of course, had its bad. But this is the thing that I'm going to kind of discuss and bring out and hopefully shed light on what I'm talking about. But that's just one thing I wanted to make an announcement about. And hopefully, if you get a chance to check it out, like I say, I'm going to do two halves. And I don't know how long it'll be. Hopefully, they're long enough where I'm bringing out what I'm talking about. So when it is discussed, you will be kind of, you know, in the mindset of like, okay, I can see what he's talking about. The 80s, something pretty nifty there. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say for right now. This is just a little quick, you know, announcement about that. So when you see it, I mean, just take it on your own thought process of what it's like. You know. All right. So till then, I always say this: y'all take care, be patient, and as I always sign out, keep that kaiju love alive.